Halliburton being the most overrated player in the NBA. It was a question posed by, I'm not sure what source, but we hear a lot about this. Out of 90, I think they said 90% of players didn't vote on that question and 13% did. I like 400 and something players. Rachel Nichols said on the facility on FS1 that 13 players out of 400 and something. You guys know how many players in the NBA. Out of all the players in the NBA, 13 of them said that Tyrese Halliburton was overrated. So, as I love to give my 2 cents on, topics surrounding the NBA. Before we get deeper into Kevin Durant joining the Minnesota Timberwolves, I want to talk about my top 5 most overrated players currently in the NBA. Well, I would say for the upcoming season, the 2025-2026 NBA season. This past season, my top 5 was Donovan Mitchell, number 1, Luka Doncic, number 2, Kevin Durant, number 3. Kevin Durant will always be in my most overrated player list. Number 4 being Devin Booker, and number 5 being Jimmy Butler. That was for last year. My list has shifted a lot. For the 2025-2026 season, and this is important because we're talking about Kevin Durant in the Minnesota Timberwolves. Number 1 for my most overrated player coming into the new season after the season is done will be Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the most overrated player in the NBA. When you have no credibility and you're on record saying that you don't want to be a leader, I don't care if nobody wants to hear their favorite player say that. Because you know how many young kids look up to Kevin Durant. You know how many of us rock those KDs with the scrunchy socks, with the cargo pants, with whatever tee that we needed to match those Pearl kicks back in the day. I think it was the KD 7s or the KD around that era when KD was in his prime with his shoes. I think around 2010 to around 2014, KD had, at that time I was in high school, so you can just Google it. KD, before he came on record, was on record saying that he didn't want to be a leader or he didn't want to go out and hoop. You got to understand, it's a lot of kids that look up to you. The last thing that you want is to tell kids that it's all right to be a follower. Because this day and age, all the kids want to do is follow the next available trend. And KD, right there when he said that, lets me know everything I needed to know about him. Not only did he make the softest decision, we gonna call him soft for doing that. You guys know, growing up, if you had beef with somebody or you dislike somebody and you went toe-to-toe with that person or that group within your friend group, you don't then turn around the next semester or the next school year, join that team, join that squad, join that friend group. You don't do that. You join a different one. If you want to leave your current friend group, you join a different friend group. So, I know I just rambled. Let's get into it. My top 5 most overrated players for the 2025-2026 season. KD is number 1, like I said. Number 2 will be Luka Doncic. I don't need to see anything else from Luka Doncic. Now, everybody want to say, Dallas made a terrible decision in getting rid of one of the most elite players. And no, what has Luka Doncic done in the NBA to call him elite or to even say he's on track to be a Hall of Famer? He hasn't done anything. Granted, make it to the finals, but this day and age, with the league being without any dynasty at this point in time, OKC could be that. That's a different topic for a podcast in the future. That's a different topic. He hasn't done much. So Luka is number 2. Number 3 is going to be Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell going into that series against the Indiana Pacers, being traded to the Eastern Conference out of the Western Conference. The reason why Utah got or decided to trade him in the first place is because when he got to the playoffs, what did he do? He wasn't a good leader. You had Rudy Gobert. You had a solid team. Now, I'm not saying Rudy Gobert is the end-all, be-all when it comes to having a dominant big because he can't even make layups. He's not even good in the pick and roll. He's defensively, that's the only calling card that he has. But come on, man. It's a lot of players in the history of the league that all they had was defense and no offensive game. JaVale McGee, who else? Dikembe Mutombo, Montrezl Harrell. Well, Montrezl Harrell is kind of decent on defense, but you guys get what I'm saying. It's a lot of players in NBA history that were more serving to your team defensively than offensively. But I can't really give Rudy Gobert the benefit of the doubt because he's done something that not many players have been able to do. Win 3 or more Defensive Player of the Year awards. With that, you've been in the NBA for a long time. You don't have one offensive move that you can go to. You don't have one. The team is not even confident in giving Rudy Gobert the ball in space. I watched that last series against I watched him against OKC, and he was open a lot, and the team decided to pass it to somebody else because they know if you give Rudy the ball on offense, it's gonna implode. So Donovan Mitchell in Utah, they traded him to Cleveland. Cleveland, I don't know what Cleveland saw in him because it baffles me when franchises do this, thinking they're going to get a player and his game is going to change, he's going to be able to elevate the squad around. Terrible. Not only that, the Cleveland Cavaliers were building something special before he even got there. They had Darius Garland and Jared Allen, 2 All-Stars. They were making an All-Star. Granted, had he not traded for Donovan Mitchell, Garland and Allen would have probably made 2 straight All-Star appearances. But that stunted whatever they had going on, and that's what happens when teams get greedy. Donovan Mitchell is my 3rd most overrated. Got KD, Luka, Donovan Mitchell. Number 4 for my most overrated player in the NBA. I want to say Karl Anthony Towns, but I don't even think we consider Karl Anthony Towns a top 10. And when I say most overrated player, I'm talking about players that we consider top 10, top 5 talents. Top 5 mostly is what I'm focusing on. Number 4 will be Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, this playoff run showed me everything I needed to know about him as a leader in their team. They're front runners. They were laughing and joking and giggling the first series against the Lakers. You guys know the Lakers. He got one of the most overrated player, one of the top 2 most overrated player on their squad, and Luka Doncic. And I'm calling Luka overrated simply because all we ask as fans is you come in and shape. You can't be chubby, and you can't. The reason why Luka plays so. Let me get back on track, man. KD, Luka, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards was simply because, like I say, laughing and giggling in that first series. You know, the Lakers, I don't know why they decided not to go through that trade for that Charlotte center, because after that trade, he looked healthy to me. So maybe they were using it as an excuse to possibly use those players to get more players this offseason after the season is in it, and the regular all-season moves and all-season trades could be held, because I think they could get more for Dalton Connect versus, just that one center. They can get more for Dalton Connect. That package that they had, I think they came to the realization that, hey, we can get more than just this injury-prone center. With that being said, you then fast forward to the next series against the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors were without Steph Curry. Before he went down, we were saying to ourselves, dang, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're finally playing a decent team. I ain't going to say complete, but the Golden State Warriors have more centers on their roster than the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers only have one legit center. And it's crazy that we all went from saying the Lakers are legit contenders to being exposed by Rudy Gobert. And it's crazy that the same thing that we overlooked the Golden State Warriors for, we kind of saw in the series against the Lakers. That the Warriors don't have a legit center either. Let's be real. Kevin Looney, come on, let's be for real. And it's amazing, but when you got Steph Curry and you got shooters and you got scorers, it's gonna be overlooked a little bit. So back on track. You go up against the Golden State Warriors, who look like they're finna run you off the floor, don't know what to do with Steph Curry. And then Steph Curry goes down. That's what happens when you have a player like Steph who's just running all over the place, running off the screens. You do that 7 games against the second best team in the NBA, who had your number all throughout the season and held you to 3 points. So defensively, they were going to make them work. Well, it's bound to happen. And then you see what happened. He goes out with a hamstring injury. And then the series shifts more to the Minnesota Timberwolves' favor. Okay, granted, give you that. Now you go up against a real team. A team. Now I don't see Naj Reid looking like the second coming of Robert Horry or Klay Thompson like he was against the Lakers. See Julius Randle was looking good. I'm not blaming Julius Randle, because Julius Randle, he actually showed up. I'm not sure why this Julius Randle didn't show up for the Knicks. I guess that's Tom Thibodeau. We're going to talk about the Knicks too in the future podcast, because we got to talk about everybody trying to blame Brunson at the moment. No, we're going to focus on Karl Anthony Towns and Tom Thibodeau. Back on track. They laughing and joking in all the press conferences against the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. All of a sudden, they go up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Ain't no more joking. Ain't no more laughing. Now it's time to see if you really like that. And I saw in I think it was game 3 or 4, where he only had 2 points in the first half. Or it was something weird. And you mean to tell me Lou Dort is doing that to you? I don't know, man. When it's time to go up against a real team and some real defensive players. And then they got exposed yesterday. They got exposed. Granted, they came out, they was desperate. First game at home, OKC up 2-0. OKC learning how to be victorious. They're learning how to, dominate teams. They're learning. So I'm going to give them that. But they responded 2 straight games and closed them boys out. They only got one. We call it gentleman's sweep. As fans, it's technically not a sweep, but it's a gentleman's sweep. If you win in 5, it's a gentleman's sweep, because that one game the team is going to win 1 game. It's a gentleman's sweep. So that's why I'm putting Anthony Edwards at number 4 on my most overrated list. I know a lot of people want me to probably put Tyrese Halliburton or LeBron. I'm not doing that. Tyrese Halliburton was never considered a top 10 player in the league, in my opinion. Reached the Eastern Conference Finals last year, made the Team USA team. Now we start to focus on it. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give him a little bit of leeway right now. But what they do next year in the playoffs, or if they make it to the finals this year, and then they get bounced in the second round or the first round next year, then I'm gonna open up that book for him to be on my most overrated list for next season once I adjust it. But it's going into next season. Number 5, I want to put Devin Booker, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, because we saw Devin Booker ball out. Granted, they lost against the Bucks, but when you got DeAndre Ayton not fully focused on playing, and y'all saw that whole turmoil. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, because when he had Chris Paul minus Kevin Durant, I'm still trying to figure out what teams are seeing in Kevin Durant. I know we're talking about Kevin Durant going to, the Minnesota Timberwolves, but y'all gonna hear my reasoning behind that. Yes, it's 100% because Anthony Edwards says that's his favorite player. Maybe he can get into that potential, or help KD reach that success that he had with the Golden State Warriors. I can't say Devin Booker. I'm saying Jimmy Butler. I gotta have both of quote unquote Jordan sons on this list, because when you had the fan bases out there and fans in general calling you Jordan son and you coming up short year in and year out, nah, you on this list. Jimmy Butler's on this list. And the reason why I'm putting Jimmy Butler on this is not only because y'all call him Jordan son. I know it's a meme. I know it's an NBA meme. But with every joke, you guys already know what I'm saying. Jimmy Butler's on this list simply because you got traded away from the Miami Heat, right? And you were pouting, you're not enjoying basketball, this, that, and the third. You mean to tell me you get traded to a team? The Miami Heat are a better team than the Golden State Warriors. Let's be for real. When we're talking about Jimmy Butler fit, who does he fit better with? If he would have stayed with Miami, you guys saw Miami and how they were only missing Jimmy Butler. I think the Miami Heat would still be in the playoffs right now if they had a focused Jimmy Butler. But I get it. Jimmy Butler has done a lot. And they failed to get Donovan Mitchell. They failed to get Damian Lillard just because they didn't want to trade Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and a couple of draft picks. Y'all guys remember when Damian Lillard was on the trade block. Eric Spoelstra, Mickey Arison, I think that's the owner, and Pat Riley, they didn't do enough to bring in KD, to bring in Damian Lillard or Donovan Mitchell at the time when they were. Hopefully you guys, if you are fans in the NBA, you guys remember that package deal that was floating around out there for Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Miami didn't want to give up those guys. And ironically, Duncan Robinson, he was on pace to being recognized as one of the elite three-point shooters in the NBA. Then the next couple of seasons after that trade rumor, fell through or fizzled out, he just forgot to play ball. So I'm going on record and saying Jimmy Butler with the Miami Heat would have went further in the playoffs than Jimmy Butler with the Golden State Warriors. Now, me personally, I love the defensive tenacity and the defensive players that individually that the Minnesota Timberwolves have. But when you talk about defensive schemes, OKC, their team look like they have defensive schemes, for teams. Minnesota just look more, hey, our defender can do better than your offensive player. Granted, they didn't have Steph Curry, but Jimmy Butler didn't have Steph Curry when he led the Miami Heat to two finals appearances, did he? He didn't have Steph Curry when he took down a juggernaut Milwaukee Bucks a couple of times. He didn't have Steph Curry when he didn't have Steph Curry when he was elite with the Miami Heat. And constantly, what the Miami Heat were doing is what we see the Pacers doing. Going down big, coming back, and showing that mental fight. That's what Jimmy Butler was doing with the Miami Heat. Now you go to the Western Conference. You guys know, everybody say the Western Conference is better. Look at LeBron when he was in the East versus when he was in the West. LeBron won a championship in the East and the West. We ain't gonna sit here and try to compare LeBron's East run when he was young to LeBron's focus more on retirement and podcasting in the Western Conference. So we're not finna do that with Jimmy Butler here. Not giving him the benefit of the doubt. So he's number 5 on this list. And I'm putting him on this list, like I said, simply because how do you have more success with a less experienced team overall than you still got Draymond out there. You still got Steve Kerr, who a lot of people are trying to say he's the top 5 head coach of all time. Steve Kerr not even top 100. Steve Kerr's not even top 100. Now, and it's everybody out there saying that Steve Kerr is still running the same place from 10 years ago. That should let you know everything you need to know about him as a head coach. Not only that, we're not finna sit here and act like Mark Jackson didn't have Steph, Clay, and Draymond drafted in his tenure. And we're not going to act like Mark Jackson every year didn't increase his win percentage. The same way OKC and their head coach increases win totals year after year after year up until this point, going to the NBA Finals. Mark Jackson was doing the same thing. Mark Jackson was good. It's not ironic that as soon as Mark Jackson was fired, the next year Steph Curry became Chef Curry. And then the rest was history. We're not finna sit here and act like Steve Kerr just unlocked Steph. He was finna do that either way. Because Mark Jackson got in his mind and said, you're going to be the best, and Cat Williams too, technically. You're going to be the best shooter. Klay Thompson, we didn't know Klay Thompson was going to become the top 2 best shooters of all time. Yes, it's Klay, it's Steph, and then it's Klay. Then it's Reggie Miller. And then you can put whoever else you want to, Peja Stojakovic, Kyle Korver, whoever else you want to put on there. So, once again, to end this segment, the top 5 most overrated players for the 2025-2026 season. Number 1 is Kevin Durant. Number 2 is Luka Doncic. Number 3 is Donovan Mitchell. Number 4 is Anthony Edwards. And number 5 is Jimmy Butler. I think I should put Anthony Edwards number 3. I think I should put Donovan. No, I think I'm going to stick with that list. Donovan Mitchell is going to be the most overrated because how are you, quote unquote, the leader? I don't even think he's considered the leader. And I know it's more coaching watching the series. I know it was 50-50 coaching and then Donovan Mitchell as a non-leader. But he was dropping 40 this, that, and the third. You got to drop 40 and win. And they had the lead countless of times, mind you. So it is what it is. I'm going to keep the list like that. Now, moving on to the next segment, Kevin Durant joining the Minnesota Timberwolves and why this will make sense for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I know KD doesn't want to be a leader. He's on record saying he just want to hoop. I don't want to be a leader. It's crazy. I've never heard an NBA player say that in the history of the game. So the fact that Stephen A. Smith called that move that he made was the softest in NBA history, now we see why. He didn't want to be a leader. Russ was the leader of that team. And hindsight 2020, looking back on it, but Russ's style of play doesn't equate to championships, if that makes sense. So KD wanted to be led by a championship caliber. I don't know, man, because had Kyrie Irving not got injured that first, we would know the Cavs will have 2 straight championships. They would. And the fact that they were up 3-1 and lost, and they recognize that, hey, we need somebody else. And it's crazy. How can you be considered the greatest point guard that is Steph Curry of all time, yet you need Kevin Durant to get over LeBron James or get past LeBron James? The same LeBron James that people swore up and down couldn't last in the Western Conference. And the fact that the NBA even let this happen. Fluky MVP of the finals twice. You guys already know. 1-time MVP. 2-time All-Star MVP. Top 75 greatest player of all time list. NBA, well, I ain't going to say that. The NBA 75th anniversary team. He was on that list. So, overall, we know KD is one of the most elite and efficient scorers. Probably the most elite. I can't say that. I got to do some research on it. But he's top 5 most elite and efficient scorer in NBA history. Give him that. But when it comes to leadership and trying to lead a team to a NBA Finals, he can't do that. He's going to need a Steph Curry. He's going to need a LeBron James. And those are the only 2 players in the NBA right now where I can say, I'm not going to put Steph in. I can't really say that anymore. I don't think Steph ever had that cachet like LeBron or MJ, where you could say, yeah, for sure, if they have all the right pieces. Really, LeBron don't even need all the right pieces. Let's not forget 2018 or 2007. So if it's not LeBron James, or since we've seen him be successful with Steph, I'm going to put Steph on that list. I got to, because we saw him go to the finals twice with Steph. But then he made it without Steph, though. So KD is a tricky NBA player to gauge. So I'm just skip over what I was about to say with that one, because and just refocus again. Why does it make sense for KD to join the Minnesota Timberwolves? Because at this point in KD's career, he literally doesn't fit with any team other than Golden State. And at this point in time, I don't think Golden State have enough money to even offer KD unless they trade Jimmy Butler and, put KD in there. But I can honestly go on record and say the Warriors will never reach the NBA Finals again without Klay Thompson. And I'm so glad that I'm having this conversation right now. I can't say for certain what they would have reached the NBA Finals, because I don't see them beating OKC, because OKC has a complete team and they're building a dynasty right now. And I hope, because I'm tired of seeing different teams go to the NBA Finals year after year. We need a dynasty in the NBA. Dynasties in sports are what makes sports fun, because you want to see teams build their team or copy another team, because then there's a standard being set. For a long time, we had the Patriots in the NFL. For a long time, we had the Detroit Red Wings in the NHL. For a long time, we had the Yankees. For a long time, we had the Lakers and the Celtics. Then we had the Chicago Bulls. Then we had the San Antonio Spurs, who were a scarce dynasty, but they were a dynasty nonetheless, because they were winning championships while averaging 50 to 60 wins a year. They were a dynasty. Now, I'm not saying just because you win 60 to 70 games a year that you're a dynasty. You got to have some championships in that. So a lot of people say the Warriors. Nah, the Warriors weren't a dynasty, because that's not a dynasty. A dynasty has to last at least 8 to 10 seasons. And we saw that with the Spurs when they went and won their first one all up until they won their first one, I think, in the early 2000s, and their last one like 2014. That last one we seen them win against the Miami Heat. That's a dynasty. A 4-year run, 5-year run, that's not really a dynasty. Yeah, that's a nice run. But we seen MJ do it from the whole entire 90s, from 90 to all the way to 99. And he got 6 out of that. We saw the Lakers and the Celtics. Now, granted, they were going back and forth, but those two were dynasties. We know that for sure. So we got to get back into the dynasties. And I thought it was going to be the Celtics. But man, when your best player is being outperformed by his Robin or the second best player, you're not going to. There's no reason why Jaylen Brown should be the Finals MVP. Tatum, the Celtics were supposed to be your team. So hopefully the Oklahoma City Thunder can be that. Because my theory is now the NBA is shifting towards more of guard play, wing defender, and bigs. If you have those 3 things, you have a chance at getting to the NBA Finals. What do I mean? elite guard play. Your guard rotation has to be like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams. Those two guys were both all-star appearance. Had you guys know what I'm saying? Those two were all-star. You have to have elite guard rotation. You have to have a wing that can defend an opposing team's best player to take the pressure off your elite guard play. Lou Dort, Alex Caruso. Those two are not considered wing players, but they guard wing players. And you guys can see what they were able to do to Denver. Now, Denver did take them to 7, but that's to be expected. They're a young team. Learn it. Denver had so much championship. Well, I ain't going to say championship, but see, they have so much chemistry, camaraderie, and playoff experience that was going to happen. That was going to be their toughest series, and they got over that. Minnesota could have been their toughest series, but like I say, when you got one of the most overrated players on your team, and he only scoring 2 points, he letting Lou Dort slow him down. LeBron ain't letting Lou Dort check him. Now, Luka, on the other hand, how the heck you let McDaniels check you, bro? I know he's 6'9", but come on, man. You Luka. Everybody's saying you the second coming of Larry Bird. This, that. You gonna be the GOAT. You let LeBron not letting nobody check him. Steph not letting nobody check him. KD not letting nobody check him, even though he, is considered one of my most overrated players. It's certain players in the NBA, they not letting no opposing defender check them. LeBron at 40 is still not letting nobody check him. Now, the way Julius Randle made him look 40, but that's to be expected because Julius Randle is a lot younger. But it's certain players in the NBA where you see ain't no opposing player gonna be checking him. So it is what it is with that. KD makes sense for the Minnesota Timberwolves because another reason. Anthony Edwards said that was his favorite player, which is ironic. Growing up, and hindsight 2020, of course you would gravitate to a person that says he don't want to be a leader. Because right now you're not looking like a good leader. You look like a front runner to me. But also too, the Minnesota Timberwolves need to make a little bit of changes to their roster. No longer do you need to be starting Mike Conley. Mike Conley is out of there. He's old. 17 years in the NBA. He's better off coming off the bench. You gotta develop your young guys, man. You cannot, for another year, have Rob Dillingham not develop. Right now, we should have been seeing Rob Dillingham. And they had a player that's technically developing nicely. What's his name? 00. I think he wore double zeros, didn't he? Was it Tristan Newton? No, it wasn't Tristan Newton. What was that? Jalen Clark? Was it Jalen Clark? No. It was one player out there that I think he had his career high, something like that. I'm trying to remember. Let me think. Because this goes back into player development. OKC, you guys see, OKC is developing their players nicely. Very nicely. Terrence Shannon. He had some good games against OKC. He had a 15-point game, which I think that's the game that they actually won. So Terrence Shannon, he's developing nicely. He's 6'6". He's a shooting guard. He's a rookie. Granted, and this is what's ironic to me. You got Mike Conley clogging up the minutes at point guard. Granted, because he's the veteran, and you don't want Anthony Edwards Anthony Edwards is more a combo guard, and you don't want him being a point guard because you want him to be able to focus on other things rather than getting it. But that goes to player development. If you're going to be a champion, you need him to develop some Jason Kidd, Chris Paul, Magic Johnson type of IQ. If LeBron was able to do it, okay, I'm tripping. comparing LeBron to him, but I'm just using that as an example. LeBron, when he first came in, he wasn't known as a point forward. We saw LeBron be able to change his game when he went to Miami. It became a point forward, and that's the term where we see small ball became a huge deal in the NBA. And then you saw the Golden State Warriors take that run with it, and they haven't relinquished that in a while. And we saw LeBron running the point a little bit more. His IQ changed. LeBron was able to reinvent himself countless of times in the NBA. He went from being an 18-year-old, small forward out of Akron, being more of a scorer and using his athleticism. Then we saw in 2007, he became a leader of men at a young age and did the unthinkable, taking a trash roster to. You guys, if you don't Google it, you probably wouldn't even be able to name the whole entire roster. I can name a couple of players. I think Ira Newble was what's that? Shannon Brown, was he on the team at Larry Hughes, Ilgauskas? I'm probably getting the players mixed up. I don't think Drew Gooden was there. I think Drew Gooden was not Drew. Carlos Boozer. I think Carlos Boozer was in Utah at that point. Eric Snow. I don't even remember the head coach of the squad. I don't think it was Mike Brown. Was it Mike Brown? But I don't know what I'm talking about, man. He was able to reinvent himself countless of times. Anthony Edwards added the 3-ball. Good. Now it's time to add. If y'all don't want to start Rob Dillingham at point guard, okay, develop Anthony Edwards into a point guard. Because you got all these rookies on the squad, and I didn't see no rookie this year make an impact on this team, except for Shannon in the playoffs throughout the season. So what are we doing here, man? OKC is literally setting the blueprint. Stockpile draft picks. Now everybody can stop talking about I forgot because Danny Ainge did this in Boston, but Boston could have had Kyrie, Anthony Davis, and Jason Tatum. But they didn't want to give up Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart for Anthony Davis, which is stupid. It's crazy. Hindsight 2020. So OKC is saying stockpile draft picks, develop them when you draft them, make a couple of trades here and there, make some signings. Well, I ain't gonna say a couple of trades. The only trade that we know for sure that they actually made that's making an impact right now is. And the Clippers are stupid. They had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chris Paul. Who better to learn from than Chris Paul? Not only that, ironically, Chris Paul went back to OKC and got them to the playoffs the year after. I think Russell Westbrook got them to the playoffs, and we was like, that's a knock to coaching. And I can't remember if Billy Donovan was the head coach at that point in time. So I'm going to just knock that off and say that's culture. Because how does Russell Westbrook solo get that squad to the playoffs? And then the following year, Chris Paul gets that team to the playoffs. And now we see hindsight 2020 that OKC is probably, it took 17 seasons. I think in the Western Conference Finals championship trophy presentation, it was like 17 seasons. Well, really can't say that because it was just 13 years ago that they went to the NBA Finals. So overall, they in 17 years, can't say that they're a dynasty because they haven't won a championship, but in 17 years, they've probably cracked the code in what it entails this day and age to be a dynasty or to build a dynasty. And that's a different point. That's a different podcast. I'm going to focus on OKC later. We're talking about KD joining the Minnesota Timberwolves and why it makes sense. Let's get deeper into this thing. I know I'll be getting off topic, but that's what happens when you got so much to say. Bones Highland is on that squad. 3 years. Robert. Oh, yeah, I was already on point. I was talking about developing your young players and how OKC is setting a blueprint of why you should and how you do. Actually, Indiana is doing that as well. But they did make a trade, though. Hindsight 2020. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton. I think Miles Turner. Wasn't Miles Turner drafted there? And countless of times we were talking about him being traded because Indiana don't know what they're doing. But Rick Carlisle, hindsight 2020, when he was bumping heads with Luka, and they were looking good. Granted, without Rick Carlisle, they did reach the NBA Finals. But now Rick Carlisle has the Indiana Pacers on cups of doing something we've never seen before. But back to developing your players. They got, I'm going to name all the rookies that they have on the roster right now. Rob Dillingham, Tristan Newton, Terrence Shannon Jr., who we saw drop 15 and helped them win a pivotal game 4, I think it was. Jalen Clark, their only victory he helped them get. Let me just be clear when I say that. Jalen Clark is a rookie. They have Leonard Miller, who's in his second year. They have Josh Minot, who's in his second year. They got Leonard Miller, who's been in the league for 1 year. Josh Minot, 2 years. Jesse Edwards, a rookie. He's a center. I didn't see much of Luka Garza. They're not developing their players like they should. If I'm not mistaken, Luka Garza was at Iowa. He was a star at Iowa. He gets to the NBA. That goes back to the player development. Now, granted, when you have a player like Anthony Edwards, who is a top draft pick, you don't really have to develop much. You just have to mold him into the player that he needs to become. Because if you are a lottery pick, you already have technically the skills to be so dominant at something that you can overlook, needing development at a certain point. But I'm trying to be clear here when I say that, because I ain't going to say a lottery pick because it's hit or miss. When you top 5, your skill set is just so good that player development could be, held off a year or two until the team actually see what they need to actually develop in. But you should already see that going in watching this college game. But I guess Anthony Edwards being 4 years into this thing, 2 Western Conference Finals appearances in his 4 years, we're gonna give him some time to develop. But when you look at OKC on the other hand, and I just want to see their roster right quick. I want to see OKC's roster versus and I know I'm playing a game at y'all watching this while I'm playing a game. But this is a podcast, man. It's more about listening than visuals. And that's what podcasts are before, people made the adjustment to something else. They made the adjustment from podcasts used to be, I would say, more on the hearing side. You would listen to a podcast and not even care about watching it. It's more like an audiobook. Podcasts are more like audiobook centric, if that makes sense. Before this new day and age where we started to add, streaming kind of elevated podcasts to, what we see them today. Because early on when we had the iPods and you guys remember the iPods, probably showing age right there when I talk about the iPod. The iPod Nano, around that time, streaming was more focused on, not streaming, but streaming wasn't even thought of at that point in time. We had audiobooks. Podcasts weren't really visual. Podcasts were like a mutation of radio. That's what it was. It was a mutation of radio. Now, since we got streaming, you can watch your favorite podcast. People, favorite podcast hosts and favorite podcast stream now. You can off topic. Back to the rosters, man. So when you want to talk about player development, let's get into this thing. So, Nikola Topic, 6'6", point guard, 4. That's going to be scary. What if they develop him into the next coming of Shai Gilgeous? Now you got 2 6'6" point guards, 2 7-footers, wing defense. Oh my God. What can they do with Nikola Topic? Is it Topic or Topic? Because they got him listed as a point guard. He's listed as a point guard. First round, 12th pick in the 2024 NBA draft. He's out for a season with the ACL injury. That's crazy. January 12th is the last update we got on this guy. And it looks like he's still out. And they don't need him. So do the same thing they did with Chet. Stash that man away. Put him in a hyperbolic time chamber. Okay, I'm tweaking. But he's 6'6", 200. He's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 2.0. Hopefully they can develop him nicely. Because we never consider white guys good defenders. But Alex Caruso is changing that. When you're thinking about the NBA, the top defenders of all time, Alex Caruso has to be up there now. Top 10 at least. He has to be top 10 at least. If he wins the NBA Finals, a second NBA Finals, and when he was with the Lakers, we considered him a defensive, I ain't gonna say genius at the time, but we saw him defensively developing nicely. He was good. He's a 2-time champion. Let's not forget. And I'm probably overlooking doing the same thing that we did with the Lakers against the Minnesota Timberwolves, overlooking the Minnesota Timberwolves and just saying they gonna win. If Alex Caruso, defensively, what I seen him do in game 5, oh my goodness, I'm putting him top 10 all time. Top 5 right now off my head in terms of individual defensive prowess. Scottie Pippen is number 1 for me. Number 2 is Kawhi for me. He did win Defensive Player of the Year twice. Now, Draymond, Rudy Gobert would not make this list. I'm sorry. And mostly wing defenders will be on my list, I think. Dwight Howard is number 3 for sure. Now, defensively, it gets tricky because when I'm saying this, I've never seen a player. Victor Wembanyama is on my list too. I don't need to see anything else. The ability for a player to guard wings in the post, I haven't seen a player be able to do that. LeBron, in my opinion, when he was with Miami, he could. But LeBron doesn't have... Should I put LeBron? He doesn't have a long enough stretch of... I ain't gonna say a long enough stretch. He doesn't have multiple years where I looked at him and said... In Miami, that was like 3 seasons. I think he was there. Was he there 2 years or 4? I think he was there 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. Out of 4 years, he got 2. So that's not long enough. So once again, Scottie Pippen is number 1 for me. Number 2 is Kawhi. Number 3 is Victor Wembanyama. And I think I had 4 players and I just forgot one, but it's all good. I'm revamping the list right now. Before it's said and done, right now, currently, off my head, before it's said and done, I think Victor Wembanyama is going to be number 1. So I got Scottie Pippen number 1. No, Michael Jordan is not on my list. Scottie Pippen was the better defender. I got Scottie Pippen, Kawhi. Well, should I have Kawhi? I think Kawhi is higher. Kawhi is higher because he got 2 Finals MVPs. Kawhi number 1, Scottie Pippen number 2, Victor Wembanyama number 3. Victor Wembanyama has to have. He should have won Defensive Player of the Year. Let's not forget that. I'm not gonna put Giannis Antetokounmpo simply because I saw him in in too many series shy away from guarding the opposing team's best player. He shied away for that too much. Right now, I only got 3. Gary Payton. He nicknamed him Glove. Gotta put him on the list. Gary Payton. Ben Wallace. Should I say Ben Wallace? No Shaq, no Akeem, no Dikembe. No. These players gotta have a little bit of offensive game as well. Even though it's solely defense, you gotta have a little bit of offensive game. Gary Payton for sure. Could have got to the NBA Finals. I think they reached the NBA Finals. He lost to the Bulls. Gary Payton for sure. I know I'm missing somebody. I want to put LeBron, but LeBron didn't have a long enough stretch. Scottie Pippen had like 6 seasons. And I know that's 2 more than LeBron in Miami, but Scottie Pippen, Kawhi, Scottie. This is tough. Kawhi, Scottie, Victor Wembanyama. Yeah. Come on now. Victor Wembanyama, Victor Wembanyama is like that on defense. And it's probably a cheat because he's so tall, but come on. Let's not go there. Gary Payton, and I need one more. In the history of the league, it's got to be a banger. I'm thinking Ben Wallace. I'm thinking Akeem Olajuwon. I'm thinking Will. I'm thinking Kareem. Oh, I said Dwight Howard. How could I forget Dwight Howard? I think I had him higher than Victor Wembanyama. Okay, Kawhi, Scottie, Dwight, Gary Payton, Victor Wembanyama. I'm gonna have to put Victor last because if he had that Defensive Player of the Year award, then he would go above Scottie. Not Scottie, but above Gary Payton. But let's not forget, Gary Payton was the first point guard in the history of the league before Marcus Smart to win Defensive Player of the Year. And to win it as a point guard, come on now, who's beat my list? And you probably saying Kawhi number 1? Kawhi is number 1, man. 100% healthy. What? He didn't stop LeBron. But when I watch LeBron play, it's certain players where I see LeBron's game switch a little bit to a little bit more, I ain't gonna say soft, but a little bit more conscious. He becomes a little bit more conscious when certain players guard him. He became a little bit more conscious when Draymond Green had to guard him. When Kawhi, those are the only 2 players where I see LeBron get a little bit more conscious. Now, I ain't gonna say Jaden McDaniels, and he's 40 years old. In LeBron's prime, in his heyday, when we saw him being King James, those are the only 2 players where I can see where he becomes a little bit conscious. And I'm probably giving Draymond Green a little bit too much credit because, as you guys know, on the back end, they had a lot of centers. Kawhi Leonard, I'm taking Draymond Green out of that. Kawhi Leonard is the only player where I watch LeBron become a little bit more conscious. And when it's all said and done and we start to ask LeBron, who's the player that guards you the toughest or made you, think twice? I'm for sure he better say Kawhi. Because what I saw Kawhi do, come on now. Kawhi is number 1. Defensive Player of the Year awards. And we saw what he was able to do in the Spurs. If he would have stayed with the Spurs, if he wouldn't have got Zaza Pachulia. And it's crazy to say this, but it's fact. Twice the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant got lucky. The Spurs were about to obliterate these fools in the playoffs before Zaza Pachulia got injured. Now, hindsight 2020, we could have probably said the series probably would have said no. When you're watching a game, you just know a team is better than an opposing team. Golden State Warriors this year against Minnesota, when they were playing with Steph Curry was healthy, you just knew the team was better. OKC versus Minnesota, you just know the team is better. Pacers versus Knicks, you just know the Pacers are better. So when you're watching the team, you know when a team is better. And when I was watching the Houston Rockets versus the Golden State Warriors when they had KD before Chris Paul went out with that injury, you know the rest is history. The same thing that happened to the Golden State Warriors this year, that happened with the Golden State Warriors versus Houston when Chris Paul and James Harden was about to cook them dudes. I think they were up in that series. And then you shift to the series against, when Kawhi was the leader. So Kawhi is number 1, man. If you want to, I want to hear what anybody has to say about Kawhi Leonard being on my top 5 greatest defensive player of all time. I want to hear it. I want to hear what you got to say. Leave it in the comment because nobody's changing my mind on that. Can't change my mind on it. He was like that. When healthy, 100% healthy. And Kawhi is one of those players where I love his game. The only knock that I have on the only thing that I dislike about Kawhi is he's injured so much. And not only did he not join LeBron, which showed, even though I hated that move, it showed us a certain type of mental fortitude that he had, you know, thinking that he could actually get to the NBA Finals in the Western Conference versus the Eastern Conference without a little bit more help. And it's just a testament to LeBron's greatness. Had LeBron had Kawhi Leonard, and the Lakers had Kawhi Leonard, we would be talking about more than just one championship versus Anthony Davis. And I think they could have had Anthony Davis as well. Who can you imagine the defense? Oh my, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, and LeBron James. We won't be seeing LeBron James take breaks, but that's what happens when you think you're better than what you are as a player and think you don't need help. The Golden State Warriors weren't embarrassed to call KD up, even though we scoff and frown at the fact that they won those 2 championships. They got lucky twice. Like I say, they got lucky twice. The Houston Rockets and the Spurs were about to do a number on them, and then injuries played a part. So let's be real with that. Now, getting back to this thing on development for the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, and why the Minnesota Timberwolves need to take a page out of their book. Now, I'm going to read you out to the rookies and the development of their players over time and what they need to do. Like I say, Nikola Topic, he's injured right now. He's a rookie. Alex Dukas is a rookie. A.J. Mitchell is a rookie. Adam Flagger is in his first full year. Cason Wallace is in his first full year. Jalen Williams is in his second year. Isaiah Joe, 4 years, same amount of time as Anthony Edwards. Aaron Wiggins, 3rd year. Dylan Jones, rookie. Lou Dort is the longest tenure out of all these players, but he got the same amount of time as Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but I think he was not drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jalen Williams is... Now, I got to be clear because they got 2 Jalen Williams. They got one that's a forward, and then they got Jalen Williams that was the all-star this year. So I got to be clear. Jalen Williams, they got him listed at 6'6". Hold up. I thought Jalen Williams was like 6'2". Why does 2K have him like 6? Sure. Something not right. They got him listed on this website at 6'6". I don't think Jalen Williams is the same height as... I don't think he's 6'6". 6'5". Yeah. Is he like 6'6", 6'5"? I don't know. I don't think he's 6'6", though. But you got to be clear because they got 2 Jalen Williams. That's... Why would you do that? Draft the same player. They're both named Jalen, but they spelt different. E-N versus I-N. That's how you can tell the difference. E-N is the guard. That's the all-star. I-N is the forward. And then they got Brandon Carlson, who's a rookie. They got Chet Holmgren, who's in his first full year. They got Asuman Dane, who's in his second year. They traded for Isaiah Hartenstein. And, of course, they traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You guys remember Paul George, the fleece, the highway robbery of the OKC Thunder. They still got those picks, too. So, all these players, when you want to talk about development and a name that you hear constantly when you flick on a OKC game, let's get into it and compare the names of the young guys that you hear constantly. So, here we go. We hear Cason Wallace's name. We hear Jalen Williams' name. He's an all-star this year, second year. And we hear Isaiah Joe, 4th year, same year as Anthony Edwards. We hear Isaiah Joe a lot. Jalen Williams a lot. Of course, you hear Chet Holmgren a lot, who should be on the radar for Defensive Player of the Year next season. So that's how many players are that? Chet Holmgren is 1. Jalen Williams is 2. Isaiah Joe is 3. Carson Wallace is 4. Was Lou Dort drafted by the Oklahoma City Thunder, or was he traded for? He was undrafted? Because it doesn't say he was drafted. Don't tell me Lou Dort was undrafted, because if that's the case, I'm going to have to put him in that, even though he's 5 years into this thing. Don't tell me he was undrafted. He was undrafted in 2019. So what the heck did they see in him? Now, I hate when he shoot threes, because Lou Dort is like Tony Allen. You don't want him shooting threes, but this day and age, you got to shoot threes. Every time he shoots a three, I just know it's going to hit the side of the backboard or brick. So he's still developing him. For 5 seasons in, he's one more season than Anthony Edwards, and one less season than Shea, who's been in the league for 6 years. So Alex Caruso been in 7. So overall, and let's talk about Minnesota. What names do we hear of their young guys being called night in and night out? Jaden McDaniels I don't think he was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, the Lakers drafted him, so I can't say him. I'm talking about players that were drafted by their team that we hear a lot of. Not one player except Anthony Edwards that we hear night in and night out on their team. Versus we hear Cason Wallace night in and night out. We hear Lou Dort, who wasn't drafted, but we got to say it. 1 year, he's been there for 5 years. So, and let's not forget, we remember when Lou Dort burst onto the scene and became recognized as a defensive-minded beast. And he's one of the sole reasons why the defense is the way it is. Because let's not try to overcredit Alex Caruso, even though Alex Caruso does his thing. But Lou Dort was there. He set the tone on defense before Alex Caruso even got there. The leadership of the Oklahoma City Thunder and the way they run their organization, they viewed Alex Caruso championship experience and his defensive tenacity as a puzzle, a piece to their puzzle. And boy, did that unlock even more potential for the squad. So player development for the Minnesota Timberwolves right now is not looking good. It's looking like the Golden State Warriors. So KD makes a lot of sense for these guys simply because it's on record that Anthony Edwards says that's his favorite player of all time. That's the player he watched growing up. And just listen to this lineup. I gotta say Mike Conley. I want to say Rob Dillingham, but like I said, they're not developing their players good. He is a rookie though. So next season, could we see him become 6th man or most improved? I don't know. Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jaden Daniels, Kevin Durant, because I see people like to put Kevin Durant at power forward position a lot. And with this roster, you don't want to put Jaden Daniels. You could probably put Jaden Daniels at the 4 instead of the 3. But I don't know. You could probably interchange KD and McDaniels at the 3 or the 4. So take your pick who you want to start where. And then, of course, Rudy Gobert. And then, of course, you got Naz Reid, Julius Randle. So you're not sending Jaden Daniels to the bench for Julius Randle, because then you're stunting the development of Jaden Daniels, who's been there. I think he's been there his entire 4 years, and he's developing nicely too. He's adding that 3-point shot. When I see him shoot versus when I see Lou Dort shoot, I don't feel the same way when I see Jaden Daniels shoot versus when I see Lou Dort shoot. I think Jaden Daniels can hit a occasional 3. Lou Dort, every shot he takes, he just reminds me of a Patrick Beverley and Russell Westbrook mutation. That's granted, Patrick Beverley made all-team defense one time. And I probably should say Tony Allen and Russell Westbrook, because his defense is light years beyond Patrick Beverley. So my bad. I'm going to say Tony Allen and Russell Westbrook mutation. That's how I view Lou Dort. Don't want him shooting threes at all. He'll knock one down if he has to, but you don't want to see him shooting threes. So they got some They got something that they really need to try to answer, because do you keep Julius Randle? Technically, I don't know how the salary cap is going to be for next year, but the salary cap is at 140 million. That means you can only pay your 15 total players a total of 140 million. If you're a dollar over that, you have to pay the NBA back a certain amount for every dollar that you're over. I think you got like 3 aprons. And if you guys want to know anything about financial literacy for these NBA teams, just look at what the Celtics payroll is going to be for next season. They got bounced by the Pacers. Oh no, they got bounced by the Knicks. Granted, they were going to get bounced either way, with Tatum on the floor or off the floor. So they got bounced by the Knicks. So now you're talking 190 million. It fizzles out in 2026, 2027. They did 136. So you want to be careful. I'm not sure how many years KD has left on his contract, but bring him in, see what he does, see what his mindset is, because I don't see any other team out there that's going to go all in for KD except Golden State or Minnesota. But Golden State doesn't have enough to trade for him. Mind you, if he has to be bought out, KD has to be bought out, because I don't think any team is crazy enough. And it's not saying much. It's not saying much at all. I don't think any team out there is crazy enough to trade for Kevin Durant. Why would you trade for Kevin Durant? Why? He's a cancer in the locker room. And it's proven. We have facts here, people. We have facts here. And it didn't work in OKC. We all blame Russ when hindsight 2020, it was Kevin Durant the whole entire time. Granted, Russ's game is terrible, but still. It didn't work in Brooklyn. even if you want to say he was one toe away from, they still would have lost. So after this season, KD has 1 year left on his deal. He will be a free agent after this coming season. 2026, 2027, he will be a free agent. He is set to make $54 million. So imagine a team paying $54 million to a locker room cancer. Now, Julius Randle has a player option for this upcoming season. Julius Randle can opt to, make $15 million a year and get that $30 million back over the course of 2 seasons, which he could get it in 1 season if he opts in. Or he can go into the open market, because there's going to be some teams out there that are going to, like I said, he's a good 4th option. He can go to Orlando. And what teams out there are at 140 or less? The highest payroll in the NBA next season will be 220. Mind you, guys, I said the salary cap is 140 million. 140 million. The Celtics are paying their squad 227 million to lose to the Knicks. The Phoenix Suns are at 218. Even if they trade KD, you got to subtract 50 million from 218. That's the number you're going to get. And let's do that right now. 218 million minus 50 million. Let's see where that puts them. 168. So they'll still be 20 something million over the cap space. Over the salary cap. So they'll be taxpayers. They'll be paying. Just think of it like this. 140 million is the sweet spot. 140,588,000. That is where you could actually make money for your franchise and not pay. It's like you going to work and you're paying your boss. That's like what I'm doing right now. Internally, I'm a technician, so I don't have time to fix major issues on my car. Like, say if I need an engine replacement or transmission replacement or transmission rebuild, I don't have the time to do that myself. So the company I work for is a dealership. It's a company that owns multiple brands. Like, you guys probably see a major name out there. Let's say Big Daddy's Honda is a dealership, or Big Daddy's is the owner of multiple dealerships. He owns Honda. It's a Big Daddy's Honda, a Big Daddy's Ford, a Big Daddy's Chevy, a Big Daddy's Cadillac, something like that. That's the kind of company I work for. It's a family-owned business, but they own multiple brands of dealerships. I work for one, but my car is a different brand. So I was having transmission issues, right? So I had to get my transmission torque converter replaced because I went to a different dealership outside of the family brand that I work for to see, because I didn't know, hey, they would actually, fix my car and then let me pay not a whole entire, the whole entire, because it cost $2,000 for it. Now this I'm gonna end this thing. It cost me $2,000 total to have my torque converter replaced because I was having some issues in my Ford Fusion with the transmission slipping in first gear. And granted, I bought it used at 54,000 miles, and for 50,000 miles on up into the time where I said, let me go in and get this thing replaced, I got to 110. So granted, the transmission didn't completely give out. And that, it's probably because I was changing the transmission fluid and it kept it from going completely out. So I got my torque converter replaced at the Ford dealership that's owned by the family business that I work for. Like I say, they own multiple brands. They got a GM brand, they got a Honda, they got a lot of brands. I work for the GM umbrella brand of them, but I drive a Ford car. So I got it replaced at their Ford dealership, right? So now I paid $1,000 up front. So now, or another $1,000. What did they do? I talked to the owner, who's a nice guy, by the way. They got multiple owners. It's a family dealership. A family brand that's refocus. So I talked to him. He said, hey, we can AR the rest. What does that mean? That means that so much out of my check will be agreed upon to be taken out each week because we get paid weekly until I pay them back the final $1,000 that I owe. I'll be finished sometime in June. I did $80 a month, $80 a week for I think 10 or 12 weeks. 80 times 1,000 or 80 divided by 1,000, and now you guys can get the approximate of what I have to pay back. So it's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm working for the company, but I'm actually paying them back for fixing something on my car. It's different in the terminology, but it's technically the same. I'm working for them, but I'm paying them back for a service that they completed for me, though. Same with the NBA teams. You're working for the NBA umbrella, but you're paying them back to complete a service for you. They're allowing you to pay this so much money to players that you drafted. You can go over that cap space, or you can go over the salary cap to re-sign players that you drafted, but you can't do that to bring in via trade players, if that makes sense. I probably rambled along. Hopefully you guys understand what I was talking about. But overall point that I was trying to make was that as a NBA team, 140 is the perfect mark. 140,588,000. Now you can go slightly above that and pay it back so much, because at the end you're gonna recruit whatever you have to pay. I'm trying to keep this so simple for you guys to follow. Overall, you don't want to pay the NBA back. You want to make money. These are billionaires. Now, if you go over that salary cap and you're competing for a championship, that's different. The Celtics were able to get one. The Phoenix Suns are a lottery team, even with Kevin Durant. So why are you paying the second highest payroll next year, $218 million, over the $140 million that the NBA said, hey, you can't go over this number. If you do, you're going to have to pay us back. We'll allow you to, but you're going to have to pay us back. And it's 3 different aprons. And you have to pay so much on the million. It can get up to the millions. If the Celtics go into the season next year, they're going to be paying $227 million total, or $227 million plus to their 15-man roster, plus an additional $1 million for every million that they're over. So $220 million plus 200, they're going to be paying like close to $500 million back to the NBA, or close to $500 million to every. It's crazy. These numbers are crazy. These numbers are confusing to me. I'm confusing myself just looking at these numbers. So the Brooklyn Nets are at $63 million, dog. $63 million right now, going into next season. The Detroit Pistons at $127 million. Chicago Bulls at $130 million. There is 4 teams right now in the NBA that are under the salary cap. Memphis, Chicago, Detroit, and Brooklyn. These are all teams that could. That's a different podcast, because these are all teams that can actually get better. San Antonio is $5 million over the cap right now. They can bring in KD, but you can't bring in a player via trade if you're already over the salary cap. Now, if they were at $100 million right now, standing as their roster, they could actually trade for Kevin Durant and absorb his contract, and that wouldn't leave anything. The only team that can actually trade for Kevin Durant right now is the Brooklyn Nets, because that will only they're at $63 million in their payroll right now, and that will only put them at adding KD via trade. They could absorb his contract, and that would still put them under their salary cap. They got Nick Claxton, who's making $25 million. They got Cam Johnson, who's making $20 million, and those are the only players that they have legitly on their contract. And I'm still trying to figure out how they didn't get Cooper Flagg. I would love to see Cooper Flagg in Brooklyn. Player development is key, though. So, like I say, Detroit, it's only 4 teams. Memphis is ironically under the cap. They're 100, and with the team that they got, they're not bad, but your third best player can't be Zach Edey. Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson, Zach Edey. Your third best player cannot be Zach Edey. Desmond Bane, in my opinion, I think Memphis would have done better in keeping Dillon Brooks than getting rid of him, because it's ironically, It's not, what's the term that I'm looking for? It's ironic that they trade him or they let him walk and they haven't been successful in the playoffs. I'm going to go and say he was the key reason why they were so successful in the playoffs. And if I'm not mistaken, they were about to beat the Warriors. And I think Ja got injured. It's one of those series they had Dylan Brooks. Was it the Lakers series? And he injured his ankle? It was something. The Hawks are 146. And then you got two teams that are at $6 million to $5 million over. You got the San Antonio Spurs at 145, and you got the Hawks at 146. Like I say, I don't know what the cap space for the NBA salary cap is for the 2025 season, but hopefully it goes. I think they say it goes up so it goes up. The NBA salary cap for the 2025-2026 is expected to increase to 154, a 10% increase. And then the luxury tax is 187. So you can get the 187, but you're going to be paying a hefty fine. And these are fines. These are not, just something that you can get away with and doing in the NBA. So all in all, the Minnesota Timberwolves don't have the ability to even get KD because they're so high. Their payroll is so high. They're number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the league, 192. So, and like I say, it's going to 154. So now, like I told you guys, it was 1, 2, 3, 4 teams under the salary cap. Now it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. Hawks, Spurs, Grizzlies. And it's crazy. The Spurs are under the salary cap. And these dudes have Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. So hopefully they developing their players like the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because if you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder squad and you look at San Antonio, they need a Lou Dort. If they could get like a Lou Dort or Alex Caruso or both those type of players in that squad or develop their players already there into those type of players, then they'll be good. So now you got the Charlotte Hornets at 151, Utah 152, Washington 157. How is Washington at 157 million and they're not? Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton going for that player option. And Jordan Poole, Marcus Smart, Corey Kispert is 13 million. So they got 3 players. This is Marcus Smart last year making 21 million. I think he's done as a player in the NBA. Jordan Poole is making 31. Chris Middleton, dude, how are you that high in payroll? Okay, it's not that high. It's 7 million over. But this year, they were hot. It was like 17 million over. So KD fits with the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I don't know how they're going to do it. Are you going to trade? The only way they could possibly make this happen, he's making 50 million though. Julius Randle and probably Naz Reid, 3-4. That's 45 million. You're going to need exactly 50 million. So you're probably going to have to trade Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels. Well, why would you do that when Jaden McDaniels is literally Anthony Edwards Batman? And Jaden McDaniels, in my opinion, I watch a lot of his game because I like the way he plays. I like him as a player. He's developing nicely. If he could just get a Cal Korver type shot or Klay Thompson type shot from 3, it adds so. Us as fans, we look at these players and think to ourselves, like, what are they doing in the offseason to not develop into these players that we know they could be? Jaden McDaniels needs to create he's nice at getting to the basket, but his back has to be deeper, man. Just imagine if he works with Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson in the offseason. Get you a little a dribble drive off the. Become a second option to Anthony Edwards, dude. You going into year 5. Granted, he's made improvements each year because at one point he was just known strictly as a defender. Now, you guys got to watch this game. This guy was literally guarding the best player on the Lakers. He was guarding Luka. Made Luka look like the most overrated player that I ranked him as. He was guarding Bron. He was guarding Steph before Steph went out. He was guarding Jimmy Butler. He was guarding Jalen Williams. He was guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That is what he does. And on the other end, he'll get you 15 to 20 points when he's locked in. But like I say, you got to develop, man. You could be a lot better. I'm thinking Kawhi. I'm thinking Paul George. Even though I dislike Paul George as the player, his game speaks for itself when he's clicking on all cylinders. I'm thinking of Paul George in Indiana. That's the Paul George I'm thinking of. I ain't thinking about this OKC playoff P podcast P Paul George. I'm talking about that Paul George that was really giving Miami buckets. That's the type of Paul. That's the Paul George that I see Jaden McDaniels need to focus and making his mirroring his game to Kawhi Leonard or Paul George. Now, in terms of injury and robbing teams of money, but their play style. They're good offensive players. They can get their own bucket. They got a deep bag, and defensively, they are good. I can't say Klay Thompson because Klay Thompson is more of a catch and shoot, and 60 points on like 6 dribbles or less. That's a different type of player. I don't think we ever see that. He's more catch and shoot. Jaden McDaniels need to get a bag where he can create off the dribble. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Model your game after those guys. So, with that being said, this podcast is over. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be back for another one soon. Let's get it. Durant will be 37 this coming September. So, with the addition of Kevin Durant within the Minnesota Timberwolves locker room, will that make them better or will that make them worse? We got to talk about it, man, because I see a lot